ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. So we'll be discussing the great master today, the life of Sri Ramakrishna, the biography of Sri Ramakrishna by his disciple Swami Sharadananda. We are still in the second part of the five-volume book. Though it is 5 volumes, for convenience now it has been published either in 2 volumes or one single unified volume. But earlier, the original book consists of 5 parts. And just to recapitulate, we have already covered the childhood days, and Sri Ramakrishna is already a youth now and is just begun worship, of course, and his sadhana. So the sadhana portion of his life, after his younger days, I mean his childhood days, he spent in Kamarpukur practically. And because of the passing away of his father Khudiram at a very young age, he came, uh, he was in his village Kamarpukur for quite some time, but later on his elder brother, who had taken the responsibility of looking after the other members of the family, including his mother, Chandramani Devi. So he had come to Calcutta in search of some job, and the only job perhaps they were capable of doing was that of a priest. And since they belonged to the a very well-known Brahmin family, very respected, especially the father, who was very well-known, and they belonged to that priestly class where the priests would only do worship of God, maybe in different houses and other temples, but they would never do the other rituals associated with Shraddha, even the birthday, and there are so many rituals that used to be, and even Upanayana and other things. So they never did this. So the only job just to earn a living, whatever little they could earn, at least his father, and then the 2 sons, elder brothers of Sri Ramakrishna, they always would rather live in poverty than take up a ritualistic job which was other than worshipping God. So only the worship of God or goddess wherever they got an opportunity, and you saw how divine providence arranged for his eldest brother Ram Kumar to get a job in a very prestigious, huge temple, Dakshineshwar, for the simple reason that sometimes orthodoxy helps, especially avatars. They come to remove all the orthodoxy, but they don't normally do any drastic reform. This is one thing to be understood. Said whatever be the superstition or orthodoxy associated with certain social customs, if you attempt to remove them and replace them with others in a with the attitude of a reformist, then it doesn't succeed, because society has been used to this orthodoxy over a period of time for some historical reasons. These customs, social customs, which has nothing to do with pure spirituality. You have to remember, religion has 2 aspects. One is the ritualistic aspect, which, if observed properly or practiced properly, can lead to spirituality. But otherwise, it can take you away from spirituality. So most of the rituals which were designed by the priestly class to earn a living supported materialism or some kind of worldliness rather than divinity. So such priests who were they stuck to the rules. They were very rules which were made by the priests themselves to suit some purpose. Though the original purpose would have been noble, but somehow it degenerated over a period of time as people became more and more selfish. And priest's craft became a profession rather than a instrument for devotion. That should be the main purpose. So, but unfortunately, Ram Kumar, though he was very honest, his father was very respected because he would never, for the sake of money, uh, allow to do, allow his sons or himself would do anything that was against the scriptures, against the spiritual welfare of the worshipper. So his father was followed the rules meticulously, and that is why he was respected, though he didn't have. Uh, Obviously, if you stick to rules, you can't earn money. So both the brothers, though they migrated to Calcutta, they followed exactly the same rules, and they luckily the Divine Mother, though they were not so well known in cities, they were much more experienced pujaris or worshippers. But because this temple was built, that again a superstition came to their help. There was a superstition, and people thought that since this temple was built by Rani Rasmani, whom they thought belonged to a fisherwoman's caste, so they said it's not permitted by the scriptures to do puja. Nobody was taking the risk. But then Ram Kumar, who was well versed in the scripture himself, he was not aspiring for that job. If you see, he was called and asked. They called so many pundits. They say mm, uh, if it is built by a person, that is how superstitions grew in our society. So they did not bother about Rani Rasmani's divine vision, divine mother herself, instructing her to build such a magnificent temple. But they saw her caste, and many of the Orthodox priests who were well known, who would have been candidates for this, the main pujari of the Dakshineshwar temple. There were other temples, there were other assistant pujaris also. But most of the Calcutta pujaris refused because they were afraid that because of the Orthodox customs, it would not be appreciated. But Ram Kumar came with a wonderful solution. He says, see, you might have built it and you might own it, but there is a solution. If you want to worship, if you want priests to worship without breaking the orthodox rules, if you gift it to some Brahmin, then it becomes his, so that anybody will be ready to worship. So since this solution was given, Rani Rasmani felt that it was such a wonderful solution coming from a humble priest of a remote village in West Bengal. So she was so delighted, and seeing his erudition and scriptural knowledge and also his character, the wonderful truthfulness and the other aspects of his personality, she was inspired to appoint his elder brother as Pujari. We saw that. And after that, Sri Ramakrishna initially hesitated to come because taking up a job was not his cup of tea. His idea was any kind of bondage, however noble it may be, would not permit him to freely worship the Divine Mother according to his devotional temperament. Such great sadhakas or spiritual aspirants, they don't want to be restricted by rituals. Rituals, though the intention is always good, self-discipline is necessary to do puja. But then if you stick only to the rules and the puja and all the elaborate and then go on, because over a period of time, the simple puja which people used to do at home, the Vedic ritual, went on increasing things, and then it shifted. The temple worship was not part of the Vedic culture. It was the Buddhists who first introduced image worship. Otherwise, fire was the only worship, fire worship, and every house had a sacred fire, which to till this date, the Zoroastrians, who were the original, the Persians, who were part of the ancient Indian culture, they migrated westward and they carried with them all the ideas, Vedic ideas, and very they considered the fire worship to be a sacred ritual even today. So how this fire ritual will not go into history, Swami Shardanji has mentioned it. So how this fire worship, which was an individual sadhana, nothing of the pomp and the ritualistic puja that we see today, it is because successive generations, they found that this was a good way of earning money. That is how the priests became so powerful. And the original worship was transformed into something which was no doubt, I'm not against, or Swami Shardanji also does not say that ritualistic worship, it imposes a lot of discipline in the worshipper. But unless you understand the spirit, if you just go by the rules and do puja, then that worship will not be accepted by the Divine Mother. That is exactly what Sri Ramakrishna's attitude was. So, first of all, he refused when his brother suddenly passed away. They said, you have to now, though he was worshipping in some other temple, he was afraid of another thing which was a result of uh, the degradation of the idea of puja in big temples. As I said, it was a simple fire ritual where the Vedic mantras were uttered and done very devotion with lot of devotion in the house without any pomp or uh, elaborate rituals. Every day they had to do, maybe recite the Gayatri, do a little Sandhya Vandana. This was the tradition. But somehow, competing with the Buddhists who built huge temples or stupas, and they started this formal worship, Swami Vivekananda says Hindus also competed with these, had to compete with, otherwise Hinduism would have died. So they also came up with their rituals. They invented gods, they invented from fire, the fire god and nature worship, the Vedic, ancient Vedic worship. It was slowly God started coming. Like they started with Buddha. The first image worship, it may be shocking for many of us that the first time congregational worship in a temple or in a place of worship was introduced by Buddhists in his honor. The Buddhist disciples of Buddha, after many, many years, though Buddha did not like, he never liked the idea that he should be worshipped in a temple, especially. So when they started worshipping out of their reverence, though it started in a very noble way, then Buddhism became very ritualistic, and people naturally started getting converted to Buddhism. So Hindus also, that's a social correction that society makes. So they also started replacing many of our temples, like the Puri Jagannath temple. It has been proved archaeologically. It used to be a Buddhist structure. So somehow Vishnu came, and then now Jagannath is worshipped with so much pomp and glory, much more than what the Buddhist might have done. So many of these Hindu temples, which used to be mm, uh, Buddhist places of worship. So Hindus also uh, built so many temples. If you go to South India and everywhere now you'll find temples, and the rituals took the center stage. Spirituality was forgotten. That is why Sri Ramakrishna had to come. So to explain all this thing, this particular incident has been so nicely described by Swami Shardan. He prepares the ground. If you just tell this is a historical correction that Sri Ramakrishna came to make, to show people what is true worship. And he started with worship. He didn't criticize. He said, though that was the fashion of the day, including Vivekananda, all the Brahmo members, they just wanted to reform very violently and say every kind of worship should be banned or stopped. But Sri Ramakrishna did not agree with that. He said, no doubt we have changed the method of worship, but if we understand the true spirit, then there is nothing wrong. So just as when you go to school, you start with kindergarten, pujas and all those things, they have some value. You need to learn alphabets, you need to learn the basics, and then you can proceed and go towards higher and higher education. Similarly, in in spiritual life, though you start with these pujas, you will find that Sri Ramakrishna was not ready, like most of us, to just get stuck in the kindergarten of religion, as Swamiji used to say. He wanted to graduate. You saw how he started. He finally agreed, but he was not happy with many of the rituals. He wanted to worship in his own way, and Mathur Babu gave him power. Mathur was concerned because every day there was a complaint that Sri Ramakrishna is worshipping in a very strange way. Either he's mad or he's breaking all the rules. The first thing that he said that I am not going to take the responsibility of the jewels that you have decorated the Divine Mother with. Maybe they are you because you like jewels, you like costly jewels, people donate. And then you go on putting those jewels. Then he said, my whole mind will be focused on how to protect these jewels from robbers. There will be people who will try to take all these things. So if I do that, I can't worship my Divine Mother with all my heart. My mind will be more on the jewels. So, okay, then Mathur Babu said, okay. And Hriday, his nephew, uh, who was more interested in the jewels and worldly money and other things, he said, I'll take care, don't worry. His uncle, he convinced, he said, I'll take care. Okay, then that is not my responsibility. I'll worship the way. So it was clear to Mathur Babu that he is a genuine worshipper. Though everybody went and complained against him, people at first ridiculed a person who leaves the usual path trod by the masses and does something new, which Sri Ramakrishna did. The more that person moves forward steadfastly towards his goal, however, the more people's attitude becomes transformed into reverence. So that was taking place. First, they criticized, they tried to complain against him. Mathur Babu himself came and then gave them a warning. In the previous class, we saw. He said, Choto Bhattacharya means the junior Bhattacharya, senior was his brother, elder brother who passed away. They used to call him Choto Bhattacharya. So he will worship the way he wants. Nobody should interfere. So, because of that warning and because he was the manager of the whole campus, others could not do anything to stop Sri Ramakrishna. But slowly they understood that he's not crazy or he's not deliberately breaking these rules. So, this novel method of worship became an object of derision to many people. They hated this. They said he's breaking all the customs. But later, others became very respectful towards him. It is said that when he had observed the master performing worship towards the end, because he himself came and checked. Mathur Babu, he was a busy person, had so much business to do. But because there were so many complaints, he used to come and see for himself why these people are against this innocent sadhaka. So he said he checked everything. He used to come and now and then see Sri Ramakrishna, and he didn't find anything objectionable as far as devotion is concerned, as far as dedication is concerned. Then he joyfully told Rani Rasmani, this we discussed in the previous class, that we have got a wonderful worshipper who is not just here for a job. In fact, he refused to sign and take a salary, though the authorities used to deposit, which later on was it was useful for Holy Mother because she had no income. So she was facing a lot of poverty, and this amount which Sri Ramakrishna said, I am not going to do a job. Uh, I'm not going to do this as a job. I'll do puja the way I feel happy with devotion used to do. And they said, okay, whatever. So he never used to sign because every month all the others, employees of the priests and other junior priests and other helpers, they used to sign and take their salary because they had a family to support. But Sri Ramakrishna had absolutely no connection with. He said, I can't sign. I don't take this as a job. Anyway, Mathur Babu was happy and he was happy to provide him with whatever he wanted unasked. So he said, he told Rani Rasmani, we have a wonderful worshipper and it seems goddess will be awakened very soon. So unless the puja is done properly, unless it is done with devotion and dedication, they say the greatness of the temple is because of the worshippers who have done sadhana there. If Dwarka is famous, it is because of the great devotees of Krishna who used to go there, including Mirabai, Vrindavan, all these temples. It's not because of the magnificent structure and the meticulous way in which the puja is done or the number of ornaments, because people are attracted by that. They'll see, oh, you see the decoration, how beautifully mother has been decorated with so many jewels. For Sri Ramakrishna, it was a big headache. He said, I am not going to look after this. You have literally the mother's image is not seen. You have put so many ornaments on her. The mother, I'm just keen to worship her. So I'm not going to remove this ornament, something may be lost, somebody might steal it. So my mind will not be on repeating the name of the Divine Mother or doing puja, but it will be more focused on this. So finally, Rani Rasmani was told by Mathur Babu, you don't worry, we have such a wonderful worshipper, and like most of the famous tirthas, Dakshineshwar, the goddess will be awakened soon. So with the help of, I mean, he believed, firmly believed, because of he had so much spiritual conviction that Sri Ramakrishna was such a great spiritual sadhaka that his worship will not go in vain and the mother will be awakened. So, Swami Shardanji concludes this paragraph by saying, very nicely has put it, as the river always flows towards the ocean. So from this point on, the master's mind continued to move towards the Divine Mother. Then we come to a paragraph where the heading is intense longing for the Divine Mother causes changes in the master's body. So what are those changes? These are signs which later on, when Bhairavi Brahmani came, this is the first worship. He had just had his first vision. So, what was his first vision? And what was the sadhana he did after that? We will be discussing in this second volume. So, till now, the background is given. No, none of the gurus have come. None of the gurus who came to teach different sadhanas have arrived at Dakshineshwar. He is still mm, struggling on his own through his yearning, through his devotion. He just, through pure yearning for God, without bothering too much about the rituals, he was focusing on his worship, which would lead him to his first vision. And what was the first vision? That is very important because here there was no guru. He just, all the gurus came later. It's rather surprising. Swami Shardanji will describe that. So his first realization, because he was an avatar, he didn't need a guru. He just wanted to be an object lesson for others to show that all these paths, conflicting paths, if they are practiced in the true spirit, will lead to the same goal. That was his idea behind performing all these pujas. But the first vision, he was motivated by certain things which brought about certain bodily changes in him. So, what happened? We'll see now. Intense longing for God causes changes in the great master's body. As the days went by, the master's love and longing continued to increase. Because of his uninterrupted current of thought towards the Divine Mother, some external signs manifested in his body. First, naturally, if you are so keen to have a vision of the Divine Mother, you can't have time for other things. So his appetite and need for sleep diminished as blood continually flowed to his chest and head. That is what happens. That is why they say you have to be very pure when you do sadhana, or at least have some amount of purity. Because when you force concentration and you do all the worship with so much intensity, it has some impact on the body. The current, it is like having a big voltage forcibly pass through a bulb which doesn't have the capacity. It will simply blow off. So also, because of, see, first of all, he is not eating properly. He is not sleeping properly. Because he's most of the time he is spending in worshipping the Divine Mother mentally, not just ritualistically. But and as a result of that intense meditation in the heart and the blood, normally the prana focuses on that center of consciousness. So chest turned crimson. So that is one sign. Sri Ramakrishna used to sometimes see if one is intensely meditating, the whole chest, the blood, because of the excess of blood there, it would continue. And eyes were often drenched with tears. He was filled with a constant and intense desire to see the Divine Mother, and repeatedly asked himself, what shall I do? What more shall I do? How can I see her? Signs of anxiety and restlessness were therefore always visible in his body, except when he meditated and performed worship. When he was otherwise engaged, because the puja was so difficult, it had a whole day they had to spend. But as soon as the worship was over, he would become really restless to have the vision. And then we heard from the master himself that one day, at that time, he was singing to the Divine Mother and praying and crying bitterly. He implored piteously, Mother, I have been praying to you so long. Why don't you listen to me? You have showed yourself to Ram Prasad. Ram Prasad is a great saint who had a vision, who had a lot of visions of Mama Kali. So why don't you show yourself to me? So that was the prayer. Constantly used to pray. It is just pure yearning, though no method in this. But it's just yearning. That was, they call it Vyakulata in Sanskrit. So the master's longing, that is Vyakulata, and his first vision of the Divine Mother. So by pure devotion and pure yearning, without following a particular type of sadhana given by the Guru, most of us lower beings, we have to have this methodical sadhana because our minds are restless. But for a one point person whose mind is one pointed towards God, who has no other uh, object in life, for such people, these rituals and this discipline is not necessary. Here they have outgrown the need for that. So what happened? What happened to him? Literally, he felt a pain in the heart. He said there was an unbearable pain in my heart because I could not have a vision of the mother. He says he's giving an example to just show how that pain felt physically. It's not just imagination. He said, I just as a man wrings out a towel with all his strength to get the water out of it, so I felt if my heart was being wrung out like that. That is why he used to feel that kind of intense pain in the heart. I began to think that he thought, maybe I'll never see mother. I was dying of despair. In my agony, I asked myself, what is the use of living this life then? Suddenly, my eyes fell on the sword that hangs in the mother shrine. If you see, Mother Kali has a sword also. So I decided to end my life then and there. And like a madman, I ran to the sword and seized it. And when he tried to kill himself, suddenly he had his first vision. And what he saw is describing himself. Then I had a marvelous vision of the mother and fell down unconscious. Afterwards, what happened in the external world or how that day and the next day passed, I don't know. But within me, there was a steady flow of undiluted bliss that I had never before experienced. And I started feeling the immediate presence of the Divine Mother. Not just vision, it is like she is present. He could not get rid of that idea. It was spontaneous. But he didn't have the vision of the Divine Mother first. It was a flood of light which came, and a marvelous vision of the mother in that sense. Later on, he will describe that. So that vision came in the form of light first. Of course, here he says he had the vision of the mother, but he felt the presence of the mother. So, feeling the presence, you don't have to always have the vision. He explains that. What was that vision like? The master narrated to us in detail the same wonderful vision. He says it was as if the room, the doors, the temple, and everything else vanished altogether. If you remember, this was the vision which Swami Vivekananda got when Sri Ramakrishna, when he was importunately pleading for this vision. So, and he would not believe in the first place. He thought it's just a sign of mental disease, some hallucination. So, to convince Naren, and because of his, he said, if there is a God, I should see him. He said, okay, he's pestering me for long. So, Sri Ramakrishna touches his chest and he has the similar vision. He just felt, Naren also felt, but he was not ready for it. That's why he said, "Oh, I have my parents, I have my brother and my relatives. So what will happen to them if?" So that was his first panic, the first panicky reaction because he was not ready. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, "Okay, okay, I'll withdraw it. You will have this when you later." And then, of course, he had several such visions. So here, Sri Ramakrishna says, nothing was remaining. Everything was dissolving into some, and what I saw was an infinite, shoreless ocean of light. That's why I said that is how he described this vision. And the ocean was consciousness. Of course, at that time, he said, I had the vision of mother. So for him, mother came in that form. You have to remember that. She didn't come in the form, human form, the way she used to come and speak later. All we'll see that. But that came much later. Now he felt, first the whole universe as it were vanished, and he saw an infinite shoreless ocean of light, and that ocean was consciousness. So the pure consciousness, the realization of pure consciousness was what he achieved in his first vision or experience. However far and in whatever direction I looked, I saw shining waves, one after another, coming towards me to swallow me up. They were madly rushing towards me from all the sides with a terrific noise. Very soon they were upon me, and they pushed me down into unknown depths. I panted and struggled and lost consciousness. Thus the master told us that during his first vision, he first saw a shining ocean of consciousness. But was this, now Shardanji is asking this question, but was this pure consciousness of the Divine Mother Kali, who bestows boons and fearlessness to her devotees? Did the master see her in that ocean of light? So, because he is not mentioning that he saw the Divine Mother, the living form of the Mother, but he saw something. He says, did the master see her in that ocean of light? First, he had the vision of these waves and waves, everything dissolving, and only waves of consciousness engulfing him. But after that, he saw the Divine Mother. It seems that he did. When we heard later on, obviously, that when he partially regained his consciousness, partially, when he was fully unconscious, there was no mother. That was the experience of the formless. He when we heard that when he partially regained consciousness, came back to this world, then after the first vision, he uttered loudly, "Ma, Ma, Mother, Mother." When this vision ended, an incessant and violent urge for a constant, uninterrupted vision of the Divine Mother's luminous form arose in the Master's heart. So, first he had this overwhelming experience, and then he thought, I should make this vision my own. That is why when Brahmananda was asked, said, you have got this Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is something similar to this, where there are no vikalpas, everything melts into that infinite light and only light remains. After that, people think that is the highest height of Nirvikalpa Samadhi of Advait Vedanta is the highest. But here he says, after that, he was not happy. He, in spite of having this vision, most of us, as Sri Ramakrishna said, will not live for more than 21 years or 21 days if this kind of vision comes. The whole body cannot absorb the shock. But he, in fact, his longing increased. And although this longing did not always manifest itself externally through such signs as weeping, like before, it remained in his heart all the time. Nobody perhaps knew it, they did not observe, though they observed that his behavior was becoming a bit peculiar, because they would not understand that how he would ignore everything other than God. Sometimes it would increase to such a point, the restlessness, to have the unending or continuous vision of the Divine Mother. He would pray loudly, O Mother, be gracious unto me, reveal yourself to me. He would cry so bitterly that people would gather around him to watch. He was completely unconcerned about what people might say when they saw him in that condition. He later said, this is very important. How did he, when he heard people just maybe laughing when he was shouting like this, how did he handle that? So he says, later he himself said, I scarcely realized the presence of people around me. He was not even bothered. He was so obsessed with having a vision of the Divine Mother and having communion with her and talking to her and interacting with her. He just ignored. And how did the people around him look at that time? At that time, before uh, he had the continuous vision, they looked more like shadows or painted pictures than real objects. So the whole world temporarily turned into had a shadowy existence. Nothing seemed to be genuine, nothing seemed to be of permanent value. And he said, so if they are painted pictures, you don't feel ashamed or you uh, feel embarrassment that I'm behaving in such a manner, because he literally saw people, living people, transformed into it. They literally looked like shadows and pictures, this temporary existence. So that is why I did not feel any shame or embarrassment at all. Sometimes I would lose outer consciousness from that unbearable agony. Immediately after that, I would see the mother's luminous form. If there was unbearable agony, again, he might have had some serious heart problem or other things, because that was impacting his body. But he says, immediately I would see the mother's luminous form bestowing boons and fearlessness. So, on one side, there was this intense fear of just passing away because of the overwhelming vision. But on the other side, he would see the beautiful, blissful figure of mother who used to assure him, give him boons, and tell him whatever was necessary for him to continue his mission of inculcating devotion in the devotees. The devotees have not yet come. He is just in his early sadhana. He has not even finished his other sadhanas, which we'll see. But she came, the constant presence of the mother was something very nice, that saved him. I would see the mother's luminous form constantly bestowing boons and fearlessness. Whenever he felt fear, doubt, the mother used to come and console him and tell him what to do, what not to do. It is, yesterday we discussed, it is the faculty of our own mind which is known as buddhi. So, Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita Namastasya 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 Namo Nama. Again and again I worship. You sit in my consciousness as Buddhi. Right now my Buddhi is not well developed. That is exactly what he prayed. My Buddhi is being clouded by my mind, which is the lower mind, which is highly reactionary in nature. So I do not know whether the decisions I take on a daily basis, on a minute by minute basis, is correct or is wrong. Will it lead to spiritual progress? So in Vedanta, we call it Viveka, Viveka Chudamani. That is the book written by Shankaracharya. So this Viveka has to be constantly kept alive. For Sri Ramakrishna, it was very natural because he had already reached this state where Mother came herself in the form of Buddhi. We have to awaken the Buddhi slowly by the same process, but our intensity is not so much. But here, for him, Buddhi was personified as the Divine Mother because she is Buddhi Rupena Samsita. She is established in everybody's Buddhi. But we do not use that. We do not uh, take help of the Divine Mother. But he saw is not only granting boons and fearlessness always, Abhayda, Abhaydan. That is why Kalpataru Day is celebrated by Swami, was considered to be not you, Thakur will give whatever you want. People unfortunately stand in queue for uh, since the previous night just for a minute glance, and they say if on that day if we pray, if any you have dreams of a house or anything, you will get it or whatever you desire. So that is the idea. But Swami Shardananji says we'll come to that much later. The Kalpataru days, that is the last year of his life. He said Thakur is not a Kalpataru in that sense. He gives Abhaidana, boons and fearlessness. Boons by way of spiritual boons, not not whatever you want. Because we are not like Nachiketa, who was offered the whole world and all the treasures. He said, "You keep it to yourself. I have come here to uh, solve the problem of death. If you have an answer to that, tell me if the soul is immortal and I don't want temporary wealth." So people are not having that kind of buddhi. So we pray. So Sri Ramakrishna knew that, and for Sri Ramakrishna, it was mother coming and bestowing boons and giving fearlessness. So if you see the Divine Mother's hands, see Ma Kali's, one is giving boons, another is uh, granting boons, another hand is granting fearlessness. So Abhaydan, that on Kalpataru day, all Sri Ramakrishna did was by saying Chaitanya Ho, he gave only spiritual boons and fearlessness. Fear removed the fear of death from the lucky people who were there. So, but see how rituals change. That is why Belur Math never celebrates Kalpataru, but we are pressurized to celebrate it here. If you don't celebrate, our devotees will shout, "No, no, we want Kalpataru, we want Kalpataru," because they think Thakur is a Kalpataru. How that word. So Swami Shardananji has clearly explained. He's Kalpataru, he gives boons, but not what you ask for. If he gives that, then your life will be miserable. So fortunately, he doesn't give what we ask. It's a great thing. It's something great we have to understand. If he gives what we want, then we will foolishly ask for. If because with our limited buddhi, we will ask for all sorts of things. But Divine Mother will definitely give. Thakur is not like that. Divine Mother, like I told on the that day, that Divine Mother is happy to give toys. That is why you have to be very careful. She will give you toys and make you play till you are tired, and then you say, but Sri Ramakrishna says, my child, these are toys. He will warn you and say, don't waste your time. Otherwise, that is not good for your spiritual welfare. So that is why many people, they pray to the mother. They, if you ask them, they will say, oh, no, no, mother is okay. Because she will give the toys first. And then, of course, she will give liberation. Whereas Thakur is a bit strict. Because that is how he mother showed him. Mother showed him his real nature. Otherwise, she could have removed all the poverty in his life. You see, throughout his life, not only he, even Divine Holy Mother had no money to buy food. So, do you think the Divine Mother Ma Bhavatarani would have denied? Because they didn't ask for it. They didn't want these toys. So also Thakur, he just wanted her to be a guide. Yet his buddhi was completely colored by the Divine Mother's will, which will never allow him to take a false step. No, no false step. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, an expert dancer will never take a false step. So he was like an expert dancer in the spiritual field. He would not make any mistake and ask for foolish things, no matter how much, like Nachiketa. Nachiketa is an ideal example. Swamiji said every person should read because he was tempted by none other than the god of death himself, who said, I'll give you sovereignty over the whole half of the world. Imagine, could have easily become an emperor. But his buddhi was very discerning, or you may say full of viveka. So he said, no, I have not come for all the way for this silly thing. My father may be happy with that. Let him have his heavens, but I don't want. I want to know before I die the permanent solution. Whether if I get immortality, how do I do it? If there is something known as immortality, only you can tell me. So also here, he used to see the vision and always coming and guiding him to do this or do that, smiling, talking, consoling, and teaching him in various ways. So you will find how life became so easy. Any doubt he used to go to the mother. Even when Totapuri came and asked him, oh, you are a great, you appear to be a great student. So I wish to give you the knowledge of Advaita if you like. So he said, no, but I have to ask my divine mother. No, not divine mother. He said, I have to ask my mother. So he thought he's going to go and ask his physical, biological mother, that is Chandra Devi, who was staying there. He said, okay, okay, go. Maybe he's so dependent on his mother. Then he saw he's not going to his mother's room. He's going to the Dakshinesh, the Kali temple. And then he comes and tells, and he has a big laugh. Totapuri, because they didn't believe in gods and goddesses. Said this vision is a hallucination. I don't know what this fellow has seen there, and he says his mother has permitted him. But it was very real. She was the one who told him what to do, what not to do. So the Buddhi Rupena Samsthita, the Devi in the form of Buddhi, can help us negotiate our life in a much better way. But she also comes, as we discussed yesterday, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Bhranti Rupena Samsthita. She also comes, that is the problem. That is why we have to worship Ma Kali or any mother very carefully. We have to worship very carefully because we are foolish. But nothing wrong. Ultimately, the mother will give you toys, but ultimately she will take care. But if you want to go through that long path, then we accept Bhranti also. That is the great idea behind the Divine Mother's worship, Chandi. She will say, you take It may or may not be good. You use your buddhi. I can give you buddhi for which you have to practice spirituality. I can give you this choice. I can give you the worldly prosperity. I can even give you bhranti so that you can be deluded all your life. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he told Hriday also, he was ill treating the Divine Mother, that is Holy Mother, whom he considered to be. He said, see, you do whatever you like, I can handle you. I will not get angry. But Holy Mother is not like that. If you trouble her too much, then Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, all the three gods cannot save you. This was a warning, and it happened towards the end of his life. Hriday was not only removed from the uh, temple, he had to sell the gamchas or the towels and go from door to door selling to earn a living. Sri Ramakrishna had warned her, don't ill treat her. She is, because Divine Mother works both ways. Not that she is not compassionate. Ultimately, Hriday was rescued. Hriday, Sri Ramakrishna, so every time he came, he was not allowed to come inside the gate. But Thakur used to go out and meet him, console him, and promise him that everything will be fine. So also with Hajra, there's so many people, whom perhaps it was mother's wish that they will have this delusion. They were born to create confusion. So in this world, we will find mother. So it's not anybody's fault. It's the mother who likes to play like that. So for some, she comes in the form of Bhranti. But we have to pray. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita. So the whole Gayatri and all our sadhana, the japa that we do, is nothing but a prayer for Buddhi. Diyo Yona Prachodayata. Millions of times it was repeated. This great Vishwamitra Rishi, who did so much of sadhana, that Vashishta was, of course, a Brahma Rishi. He was a Raj Rishi. He was a Kshatriya, so he was very envious that I tried with my whole army. He was so angry. He wanted to kill Vashishta's disciples and Vashishta himself because he wanted that cow, Kamadhenu, that wish fulfilling cow. He saw that whatever food he asked, he fed the whole army. So he said, this cow belongs to me, I am the king. So this Vishwamitra Rishi, he was very angry. He was not a rishi at that time, he was a king. He thought king power is everything. So he told Vashishta that even if you don't agree, I'll take this cow away. You don't need it. You are all monks here. You are all hermits. You live. I have to run army. I have to rule the whole kingdom. This cow should be in my palace. So he forcibly told the army to take away that cow. Then he just raised his Brahmadanda, they say. Vishwamitra, Vashishta Rishi, who he just raised his Brahmadanda, that is the staff, and all the whole army became powerless. Then even Vishwamitra had to withdraw. Then he got a taste of what he thought. You see, the spirituality has so much power. So but because of his goodness, he, though his ego was hurt, but still he said, no, I will achieve what he has achieved. How can he become? I will also follow the same method. So he goes and does tapasya for a long time. Again, mother comes in the form of Bhranti, that Apsara comes and he again has a fall. Again he rises, again he does sadhana for years and years. Then he comes, then he has a vision and he is told that you will not get the status of Brahmarshi unless a Brahmarshi bestows his grace. So he was very upset because he has to go to that very person he wanted to defeat. But still, he had some goodness in him. So he goes to Vashishta And when he's about, the story goes that when he's about to enter that small hut of Vasishta, he overhears Vasishta telling his wife, praising Vishwamitra. He says this Vishwamitra, so many times he failed. But you see, again and again, you see, I appreciate his tenacity to do sadhana. Every time he does, something happens and again he rises. So I have great respect for that. When he heard, he was shocked because this is the person whom I am trying to defeat and he is praising me. So immediately goes and falls at the feet of Vashishta. Said, please accept me as a disciple. It was my ego that I was fighting with you. I was thinking of fighting with you. I thought I could achieve everything through power, but only through humility one can achieve greatness. So after that, you see, he becomes a Brahma Rishi, and the first thing he does there, after he gets his blessing, repeat the Gayatri mantra. So this Gayatri is the Rishi who uttered for the first time. As soon as he became a Brahma Rishi, by the blessings of his Guru, that is Vashishta, he composes and his Guru praises him for that. And that Gayatri has become a tradition. So that is the essence of spirituality, that we pray to the Divine Mother that you give us buddhi. You can come in different forms. Chandi is a very neutral text. It will tell you if you want Shri Rupena, you want success, you want money, okay, Mother is ready to give. But you have to choose what you want. If you ask for buddhi, which is our tradition, the dhiyo yona prachodayat, that is how Vishwamitra found after so many blows he got. After every sadhana, he got convinced that I was asking for the wrong thing. That is why I had to do again and again, come back and do sadhana. Everything was going, but this ego, silly ego, made me follow the wrong path. But anyway, he came, he got the blessings and gave the whole humanity a lesson that he had learned, that just ask for buddhi, there cannot be a higher prayer. That is why Thakur says in the Kathamrita that the essence of Vedas is the Gayatri mantra. And the essence of Gayatri is Om. So ultimately, our whole culture, if you see, I am just because next uh, condition, what happened to Sri Ramakrishna is a new chapter, chapter 7. So I'm not taking that. If there are some questions, we can take some questions. But this is in brief how Shardanandji has treated in so much of minute detail. So there is absolutely no biography in the whole world. I recently read a book. One of the devotees who worked in the Institute of Culture, she wrote a beautiful book. There is a word known as, one is biography. Biography is of historical people or people who are in the world. People who are great spiritual giants, for them we call it hagiography. There's a word. So she has written a book. Why Sri Ramakrishna's life is a hagiography and not a biography. If it is a biography, you'll say, oh, he did this, he did that. Finally, uh, he had children and this, that, and finally one day he died. And that is how biography goes. But hagiography means it is a minute account of every moment recorded by spiritual people or compiled by spiritual people. Many of the great saints of Christianity, they had visions. And in the depth of that realization, even Master Mahasaya, he used to meditate on each line of the noting that he had done in his diary and try to find out exactly, because of his wonderful memory, he could reproduce the Kathamrita. Similarly, this book, every line is important. Every line. People are keen to take initiation without reading this book. They feel it is a kind of punishment. We read so many books in our whole life. Even to get a normal degree, forget degree, to pass school, we read so many books. Can we not read this book? It's such a wonderful book. No matter how many times you read, you'll find some wonderful things. Every problem of ours, Sri Ramakrishna has practiced sadhana to show where we go wrong, and we cannot understand it if we just read a short life of Ramakrishna. Because we do not know what was the intention. Why did he do all these things? Was he mad? Was he giving up these rituals? Every line, like a lawyer, Swami Shardanji is explaining the pros and cons, why he did not do this, everything from a spiritual background. And this he could write because of Ma Sharda Devi's grace. He might have done this mantra, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstisa. So till mother was there, he completed. But the last days, the day mother passed away, all his strength was gone. Everybody, all the disciples said, You have complete this book. He said, What can I do? I don't have strength. I don't have strength. I feel everything is gone. It was Holy Mother's. Do you think I have written this book? It is not in my capacity to even write anything about Sri Ramakrishna. When Swami Vivekananda said, by trying to create an image of Shiva, I might end up creating an image of a monkey. So I don't want to attempt. Imagine Vivekananda saying, I cannot write his biography. So do you think Shardanji says, do you think I could have written it? It is Holy Mother who inspired me. She was the Shakti. She was the one who gave me Buddhi. It requires an incisive intellect to write, explain every incident the way he has done. And this one book, though it is a bulky book, but if we cannot read it, then we don't deserve to be practicing spirituality. I am unequivocal. This is because of one of our very senior swamis. When we were novices, he found that all brahmacharis are reading all sorts of stuff. The racks are full of books. He just went, ordered all the books to be taken away. He said, if you don't read this book and I will ask you questions, if you don't complete it, I will just ask you to leave the monastery. You don't know about your own Ishta. This is something which you have to first read. Then you read whatever you like to your heart's content. But if you cannot read this book, then you will not understand anything. If somebody has understood Sri Ramakrishna as Swami Shardanji, it will be Holy Mother. Of course, she got it written by him. You can say that, very safely say that. So, something is as authentic as this. If we cannot read, then we might do the mantra, we might do the sadhana, but I don't think it's going to help any one of us. So there's no end. I mean, once or twice it is absolutely essential. If you read more, it is better. You see, otherwise, this kind of biography, uh, this book which I told you, that Mitra, I forgot her name, uh, some lady, she has written she has compared all the hagiographies of the world, including that of Jesus. And then she says, if you compare, this is a uncomparable. No, this book cannot be compared because so many details from childhood to the last day, you will not find. You will get what they did, avatars did, what prophets did to other people, but how did they struggle? What was their own life? How did they struggle and what lessons we can learn? We cannot. Yeah. Yeah, if they want to ask. If there is any question, you can. Yeah.
Part where in Ramakrishna had that experience. So as you said that is really Kalpa Samadhi. And then after that, when he came out of then the Buddhi start acting. So is that the Jivan Mukta? Is that how the Jivan Muktas operate in this world?
No, that is true. He is beyond Jivan Mukta, is far, far superior. Jivan Muktas, you may say, Totapuri and all, they lived like Jivan Muktas. For them, one experience was more than enough. So he had this experience right from the beginning. And Swami Brahmananda used to say, who is much, is a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, but still he said, uh, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the beginning of spiritual life. There's no end to the experiences. So from that we can understand that we can very, that's why these things, we have to take their word for it. We never have a chance even to have a simple vision. Forget Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So how do we know what is authentic, what is not authentic? So these biographies, because they were written by sadhakas who themselves experienced these truths, it is it is worthy. Anything? Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So that's the idea. So the next chapter is on sadhanas, because as you were mentioning that we cannot compare the Nirvikalpa Samadhi he had again. So several times he had, and not only had, he could give it to others, like Swamiji. He could just by touch, by wish, even without giving the mantra. That is, different types of initiation are spoken of in the scriptures, but only avatars can do that by just mere wish. So he could give all the experiences that he himself experienced. And Shardanji says, before writing anything, he would pray, and by Divine Mother's grace, he had all the experiences himself. Otherwise, he says, nothing that I have not experienced is recorded in this great master. What a statement! It is, unless he had, so it makes the book so authentic. You see, these things you have to understand. Yes.
Suffer for depriving Holy Mother of the pension.
Yeah, but they are insignificant. You see, they played their own role. For Holy Mother, what suffering? Ramlal was the one who stopped the pension amount. Every employee, though Sri Ramakrishna was not an employee, 7 rupees were credited to his account, and he did so much of seva. So the money was there, and Sri Ramakrishna knew that in my absence she will need that money. And the temple authorities very systematically used to send those money. Most of it was spent feeding devotees. Jairam Bhatti, there were so many guests. So not that she could use it properly, but anyway, that was supporting her. But only when Ramlal was, I don't know, for some strange reason, he thought the rich devotees of Holy Mother are going there, they must be giving her a lot of money. So out of some kind of jealousy, he went and recommended, because he was one of the employees of the, just to be get some favor from the management. He said, you don't have to give her the 7 rupees. I think she doesn't need it. Maybe it was not intentional, but whatever it is, they immediately took action and stopped that. So whether he suffered or not, every it's it's we do not know towards the end of his life. But Hriday definitely suffered. But somehow, because of his seva, he was saved. So similarly, Ramlal also, Swami Vivekananda used to respect him a lot, all of them, just because he was Thakur's brother's son. So people who don't have this ego, they don't bother. Even I heard some of the monks used to do pranams to him when he came, though he was a householder. Hmm. So I don't think he might have done some mistakes for which he might have suffered. Mentally, he might have suffered. Who knows?
Sharon was when
Yeah, yeah.
she was mentioned that any offense to Holy Mother would bring undesirable consequences.
Yes, obviously. So definitely, see, his intention, we do not know. Behind every decision or action, he might have just suggested and the temple authorities would have stopped it. That is also possible. But one thing is certain, that he was involved in the stopping of that little amount. And as a result, Holy Mother had to eat some whatever rice she could grow, and some green leaves vegetation which she grew. And it was so bad that Holy Mother's mother, who was still alive, she saw her daughter suffering like this, wearing torn saris, and she said, "No, no, you are not living in Kamarpukur anymore. It may be your house, or it may be your husband's Thakur's place, but they are not treating you well." So she was taken for some years. Mother said, "I will take care of you. You come with me." So definitely the pain that anybody might have caused, not only Ramlal, maybe some other people were also involved. It was not a, he was not the authority, but his suggestion was not good. Why should he bother if somebody is giving money to somebody else? But jealousy and all those things.
Earlier in the talk, you mentioned that Ramakrishna wasn't into rituals, was not restricting his way of worship, and he developed a noble way of worshiping, and people didn't quite like that.
Yeah.
Can you give me an idea what this noble way of worship?
Novel means, acha, last few classes, if you see the previous, he used to do many things which very elaborately, he used to sometimes meditate for a long time. Puja has to be done at a particular sequence. You have to offer this, then this, then this. Pujaris are very strict about it. Whereas he used to break that. Sometimes he used to just go, offer all the flowers, and talk to mother. "Oh, you want to eat? You eat now," like that. And sometimes he even heard mother saying, "You eat, my child, you eat first." So that is sacrilege. Nobody will, before offering, eat and then offer. So the people would be natural, they will go and complain that he has gone mad. He is eating himself. And but he is talking, he is saying something different, and they are not able to understand. He said, "Oh, mother, you want me to eat? Okay, I'll eat." So that is unnatural way of worship for others. But when Mathur Babu came to inspect, because he said, "Don't take any decision, I will come and see." But he saw he was fully one with the Divine Mother. Whole day he was spending there. And the moment he came out, that people don't observe. He never went to socialize, especially after meditation. He would run after puja. He will just, Hridaya used to chase him. He used to go to the deep forest and meditate. He just used to hate seeing people because everybody goes with worldly expectation. So that behavior, by seeing him, it is described now. That it's not that he spent his whole time there. After that, temple has to be closed. So what will he do? If we are very keen to close the temple and then go and have some kind of relaxation, gossip, but he used to, he was afraid to encounter people. Hriday says that. Mama would disappear, his uncle. He said he would disappear. Where is he? He is in a place in Dakshineshwar, which was, people were afraid it was a haunted place, or they were afraid of insects or snakes and all. So nobody went there. So he would be invariably found there. Initial stages. Later on, when devotees started coming, he used to sit and talk to them. But he was keen to give that spiritual knowledge. But first 25 years, he gathered all the spiritual knowledge. Next, so that is to do that, to achieve that kind of bhakti, he could not be very ritualistic. That is abnormal way of. We explained, there were 2, 3 paragraphs earlier, if you see the previous class, he's saying that he did so many things which the priests pointed out. In fact, they sent written complaints, that those who are jealous. They said he is eating before offering. It's obviously nobody will do that.
Think that it was having a relationship.
Yeah, for him it was something. If mother tells him, if mother comes and tells him, "You eat my child," he ate, because that was real worship. In fact, there is a nice story of a Christian monastery where it's a beautiful story. The same bhakti tradition exists everywhere. They are misunderstood. perhaps they are neglected, but later on, after their death, they become famous. I forgot the name of that. He was good for nothing. So he was like a vagabond. He joined a circus, this young man, and that circus was for some reason closed. So he lost a chance to earn a living. And the only thing he knew was to juggle, jugglery. You have to throw this, and it was the only art he knew. So obviously, when the circus closed, he was out of job. He was suffering. Then somebody told him, "Why don't you just go? At least you'll get something to eat. There's a big monastery there." So he said, "Okay. Anyway, I have nothing to do now. So no job." So he went. And the abbot was very kind. So he accepted him and he said, "Okay, you do whatever. Here everybody has to serve. So you do whatever you can." So when he went to the chapel, obviously he cannot chant. His voice was not a trained singer. So all objected. They said, if he comes, he disturbs everybody. So don't allow him. So chapel was denied. He thought, oh, maybe it is God's will. I cannot enjoy the daily ritual. So he never had a chance. So they said, I have to do something. So the abbot said, okay, why don't you cook? So even cooking, he was not good. But the only art he knew was juggling. So he would not cook properly, and all monks used to get angry. No, no, you remove him from cooking, then cleaning. He tried everything, and everywhere he was unsuccessful. But the monastery abbot, everybody said, you please remove him. He's a nuisance. He's doing nothing. So, but he said, no, give him a chance. If the Lord wishes, he has brought him, he will decide how long he should be here. If the Lord wants, he will take. Abbot refused to take action. Then, and he was also depressed because every day all the other brother monks used to say, you are good for nothing, you can't cook, you can't clean vessels properly, you break the vessel, dishes. So, what else he can do? So, he, after a few months, after so much of torture, this person started getting a lot of smiling and always happy. Then the abbot said, something has changed. How can this person who is always getting criticism now is so happy? So he secretly wanted to see what he does to, because he's so adjusted now and he's not complaining. Though they are the same, they are irritating him and irritable by nature, they are angry, they are jealous. Nothing has changed, though they are very following the routine properly, they are very good in chanting. So the abbot saw that after the shrine is closed, he slowly, when everybody goes to their rooms, he goes to the shrine. So he was curious, what is this person doing inside? Let me see. He is doing some spiritual practice. Otherwise, how can he change? So he secretly went and was watching this uh, young man. And there, he had fortunately kept his jugglery things, in a sack. So he used to quietly take that inside and stand before Jesus and do his juggler. That's the only thing he could do. And it seems Jesus used to tell him, oh, today, yesterday, you could not come. I want to see. He had a vision of Jesus. Can you imagine? Though it is unnatural to others, then the abbot was surprised. And he was as if, as Thakur said, oh, you want me to eat? And he ate. So similarly, he said, is it enough? He was talking to, because he had a vision of Jesus. And Jesus was telling him what to do, what not to do. So that is a great lesson that these people, they are so intense in their faith and devotion that they cannot be compared to the ordinary I mean, you can say regimental devotion that we have. Our devotion is regimental, getting up at 5, doing this, doing that. Oh, I have gone to the temple, I've gone here, I've done this. These people don't bother for this. That is the reason why I said. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri